And all beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma to teach us how to live silently in the thankless and inadvertent day, and keep lives on earth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samyao samputoshe. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛。Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng. It is Sunday, September 11th here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, the year 2022. It is Saturday the 10th back in California. And here we are about to launch into our, hold on one second, here we go. About to launch into our Avatamsaka Sutra lecture. I'm going to share my screen here and bring us back to our invocation. What we'd like to do is invite the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly to attend our lecture. And our founder, Master Hua, would say, have no doubts that they do not come. If you're sincere and if you do it rufa, according to Dharma, it's only to be feared that we won't think to make the invitation. So let's do that now. We do it with a melody. And so this is a request and an invocation. And we're asking the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly, and also the Dharma protectors. In Chinese, they call them the Tianlong Babu, the gods and the dragons in the Eightfold Pantheon, to come and shed their light on all of us. So here we go. Oh Some people might wonder why that melody. Why is that the way that we request? And my answer is because here we go. I was on a pilgrimage for 2.5 years out in the wilderness, the wilderness of Los Angeles, and up the California coast. And for months on an end, it was just myself and my companion, Bhikshu Heng Chao, going through the wilderness, the California coastal highway. And in the early morning and then in the early evening, when we concluded, we were on the highway for 8 hours a day. We were often, you'd see, 4 cars per hour. And other than the sound of the crashing waves to the left and the seagulls overhead, that melody was the only human intervention in that scene. The cars driving by, of course, but for hours and hours and days and weeks and months on end, just that melody. Namo da fang guang vo huai jing, huai hai hui fo pu sa. Very simple, and yet somehow the human element got naturalized, I guess you'd say, got made into nature more and more as these, sounds, vibrations from a human vocal cords was in there in the mix with the winds through the pines of Los Padres National Forest and the whales offshore and the sound of the surf hitting the rocks off the coast. And so that melody became integrated into my nervous system, I guess. And so it's a delight to be able to share it now with the banjo. We've kind of hit upon the banjo. We've done it with the mandolin, we've done it with a mandola, we've done it with a 12-string guitar. And it's also, interestingly, if you go to the city of 10,000 Buddhas or any of our related branch monasteries, and take part in what's called a chaoshan, a bowing journey at City of 10,000 Buddhas on holidays. They go from the front gate over to the Buddha Hall, which takes about 40 minutes or so. And that's the melody they use. So it's kind of become our bowing theme song. But we have one more task before we're done with our preliminaries, and we're going to acknowledge country, which is a new custom here, new to our Sutra lecture, but become a tradition here in Australia, where we say, the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language group practiced spiritual connections to land, to living beings, and to all creation in this location for tens of thousands of years. Today, we acknowledge them as traditional custodians of this land. We acknowledge them with gratitude as we share this land today, with sorrow for the costs of that sharing, and with hope that we can move to a place of justice and partnership together. We acknowledge their wisdom, their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. So when I am back in California, we are going to do the same, and we're going to do it with the Ohlone peoples and the Pomo peoples to acknowledge country. Alrighty, I want to share my desktop with everybody here. There you can see the full moon. It is mid-autumn festival time this weekend, Zhongqiu Jie, and it's the Pisces moon, by the way, the full moon in Pisces. One more wonderful Chinese cultural event on the cultural calendar for Chinese people, far and wide. We are looking at the Flower Garland Sutras, chapter 20 today, and here it is. Let's see, I'm sharing it. Good, you can see it. Now, chapter 20 is a celebration that I need to set the stage for you. So especially for folks who are fresh to this chapter, what's going on here. The idea is we're here. I'm going to unshare for a moment. There we go. We're looking into the Flower Garland Sutra, and called the Avatamsaka. And the Flower Garland Sutra is a long, long text. There's many, many chapters. There are 40 chapters in all. And the traditional way they describe this text is that it was lectured 9 different occasions, but in 7 different locations. So 2 of those locations got lectured at, were visited twice by the speakers of the sutra. And of those 40 chapters, none of them were spoken by the Buddha per se. It's interesting, huh? But the Buddha deputized other bodhisattvas, in some cases devas, gods, to speak the sutra on his behalf, to explain these principles. So here is one of those chapters where it's combined with chapter 19. Chapter 19 and chapter 20 are a pair. The chapter 19 was the preparation for what follows, chapter 21, which is called the 10 practices, and then chapter 22, which is the infinite treasury, the Wujinzang pin. Now, that's kind of the entree. If this was a banquet, that's the entree, is the 10 practices and the 10 inexhaustible treasuries, Shi Wujinzang. Now, the preparations happened in chapter 19, and now in chapter 20, we get the celebration of what was being prepared. So chapter 19, we've talked about it every week. The Buddha announced he was coming to one of the heavens in the 6 desire realm heavens. We live, according to the Buddhist geography, in a place called the Yujie, the desire realm of desire. And of those heavens, there's 6 stacked up. They go vertically. The heaven, interestingly, the way the Buddha described it, the heaven that we talk about in Judeo-Christian terms is number 2. That's called the heaven of the 33 gods, the Triyastrimsha heaven in Sanskrit. The next heaven up is where the Buddha is now. So we're in heaven number 3 out of 6. And as the rest of the Avatamsaka is explained, the Buddha goes higher into those heavens. So here in the Suyama heaven, the Deva who's in charge, the god in charge of the Suyama heaven, saw the Buddha was coming and prepared. Oh boy, he was excited to get to set the stage and to make a place for the Buddha to speak. And he did so. The Buddha accepted the invitation, came up, and the Deva in charge, he's not named, interestingly. He's just called the king of the Suyama heaven. So he's the king of the Devas, the Deva Raja. He says, welcome, you're not the first one. I have been present when 10 separate Buddhas came to explain the Dharma here. So this palace has a lot of history to it. And further, he says, it's a very auspicious place. This is a very lucky place because Buddhas have been here. And he sings his praises of the Buddha, and he has a refrain in his praises, and the last line is, therefore this place is the most auspicious because this Buddha, that Buddha, that Buddha, that Buddha, he names them all who've been there. So welcome to the Suyama heaven palace, he says. And the Buddha very graciously says, thank you for the setup. I'm ready to speak. I'm ready to deputize someone to speak on my behalf. Okay, so that's a funny kind of setup, isn't it? The next thing that happens is 10 bodhisattvas arrive. We move from chapter 19 to chapter 20, where we are now. And those 10 bodhisattvas identify themselves. They talk about the countries they come from, the Buddhas who teach in those countries, and then they do something that is a hallmark of the other chapters of the Avatamsaka. Each of the places in succession where the sutras explain is what happens next is singing or chanting. The bodhisattvas in turn stand up, light incense, walk around the Buddha, offer the incense, probably flowers and maybe a candle. And then they bow and they put their palms together and they sing. They praise the Buddha. So what's interesting about that is people, certainly I'll speak for myself. When I first got interested in Buddhism, I didn't have any sense that there was this activity called devotion. What do they call it in Sanskrit? Bhakti. That bhakti practice, devotional practice, praising, the praise tradition was part of Buddhism. And oh my, was I limited in my understanding of what really goes on when you dig into Buddhist practice. So just as Christianity that I was raised in, the Methodism is based around the Methodist hymnal. There's a thick book, Methodist hymns. John Wesley, Charles Wesley, the two Wesley brothers who were so significant in the formation of Methodist Protestant practice, were hymn writers. They were liturgists. They could put together wonderful hymns. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. And if you don't know any other Christian hymns, think about Christmas carols. Christmas time is a time when we get to hear a lot of the praise tradition of Christianity. Wonderful songs. That Methodist hymnal is the real glue that holds that tradition together. And every Sunday, we are there singing through the hymnal, all these different praises. Almighty fortress is our God, a bulwark never failing. And all the choirs and all the pianos and all the organs that that keep that tradition going. That's what people expect on a Sunday, and they love it. So now, since then, that's a 19th century phenomenon. But there is now the new tradition called contemporary Christian music, CCM, and the praise, devotion, bhakti quality of Protestant Christianity is thriving. If you, as I often say, if you get in a car in San Francisco and drive to New York across the United States, you can go from coast to coast and never leave the sounds of contemporary Christian music filling your car over your radio. It is a profound phenomenon with stars and with fans and with radio stations and careers based on dropping your new CD of contemporary Christian praise music. Now, that's the case for Christianity, but who knew that Buddhism has a profound, deep praise tradition? In fact, if you wanted to check in on how do Buddhists practice, we know about meditation, right? Mindfulness, but who knew that there are 9 other major practices promoted by the Bodhisattva who is most identified with practice in the Mahayana, whose name is Samantabhadra Pushen Pusa. In Japan, they call him Fugen Bosatsu, right? Pushen. He is the boss of practice. He is the keeper of the keys of the library of Buddhist practices. And he has 10 practices that are identified most tightly with him. Number 2 is called Chengzan Rulai, praise the Buddha. Buddhas, praise the Buddhas. So here in our chapter 20, we get to listen in. We get to witness and appreciate what that means. One of the joys of the Avatamsaka is we get to sing along with the Bodhisattvas. because this is what they're actually doing. And okay, here we are, 10 bodhisattvas. Each of them has the name Lin. It would be Lum in Cantonese, right? Or Lam if you speak Hokkien, right? It's Lin, 2 trees, mu, side by side, Lin, forest. So it's in Taiwan, this surname is so common. They say Chen Lin Man Tianxia. The world is full of Chuns and Lins. That's a common surname. So here are 10 bodhisattvas all named Lin, and that's the surname, but the name preceding it in their title, this is their title, has a different virtue. So the leader of this group of 10 is named Gongde Lin, forest of merit and virtue. We are now in Bodhisattva number 5 out of the 10. And today it is Tan Kui Lin, forest of remorse. And remorse is a healthy virtue. It's not to be confused with guilt. Cleary, in his other translation in English of the Sutra, calls it conscience, forest of conscience. I don't think that's accurate. I think he's missing the cleansing quality. Conscience is sort of a neutral. It's a checking in with what your mind is saying, perhaps. But the Cankui, the Chinese, allows you to renew, to cleanse, to check in and discover how many things I did that were false, how many things I did that were confused, and the idea of trading the false, penetrating it to find the truth, and acknowledging the confusion and finding the knowledge, the wisdom underlying the confusion. So that's the function. The Cankui has much more an active role than conscience only. And sometimes called shame and remorse, hiri and otapa in people who study the Pali tradition of the Theravada. These are very wholesome, self-correcting, cleansing features of the mind. So when you dig in and activate these features, there's a way of facing the flaw and repairing it. Even the name of this practice, cultivation, 修行 in Chinese, means repairing your steps, correcting your steps. So if our steps are out of harmony, out of rhythm, we correct them. Anybody ever run your bicycle into a curb and your tire gets out of true, right? So you true as a verb, you true up your tire by adjusting the spokes, tighter, looser, and what was wobbly, you couldn't brake well on your bike brakes because it wasn't in contact. You true it up and now it spins perfectly. And when you brake, it hits you much more efficient because the brake pads are touching both sides. That's truing your tire. Cultivation is just that way. You put it back into true, into center. And this conscience, let's use remorse and shame and remorse and renewal. That's a much more effective way to translate Tankui. So that's him. That's our Bodhisattva that we're going to listen to. What's he doing? He's praising. He's tying into that praise tradition. He's kneeling in front of the Buddha and he picks the things he wants to talk about. Last Bodhisattva was wisdom, or no, it was fearless courage. The last virtue was forest of courage, forest of fearlessness. And his topic was faith. And we heard 10 verses of faith generated spontaneously by this Bodhisattva. And they come in, these are 5-character verses. We'll take a look. Let's take a look right now. Here we go. Here's our text. And these are 5-character verses that, here they are. Oh, look at that. I can do that on my Macintosh computer. So here it is. And there, if you had to find a musical tradition that was close to this, it would be hip hop, spoken word poetry, where the Bodhisattva is from his or her heart, bringing forth genuine appreciation of the qualities of the Buddha. And the Buddhas, they're listening, as are all the other 9 bodhisattvas and everyone else. These assemblies are attended by countless multitudes of living beings, visible and invisible. Gods and the dragons and the Eightfold Pantheon are all there. So the praises that this bodhisattva is coming forth with are his choice, her choice. And if we listen to it with these ears, you can really hear the variety and the sincerity of each bodhisattva as he wants to say something to the Buddha, to say thank you for allowing us to find the Dharma, which is going to take us from confusion and falseness to clarity and wisdom and truth and a compassion that connects us all together and puts our minds in line with the Dharma, which they say has been around for the 3 periods of time and in all 10 directions. So the timeless, ageless Dharma that transcends time and space. Thank you for that, you're saying. Okay, are we ready? Is that a good preamble to get us going? Everybody kind of have a sense of the context here. So we're in the ecosystem of the Avatamsaka. Let's see what Bodhisattva Forest of Remorse has to say. 若人得闻时，须有自在法，能生欢喜心，其处以何往? Should there be someone who gets to hear these special teachings on reaching self-mastery, and who then feels joy at heart, this person will soon cast off their net of doubts. Okay. He says, Bodhisattva, oh, let's see, I should have read the preamble. Can we do that? Can we take it back one step? Erase that? Okay, here we go. 而是惭愧令菩萨成佛为力，普观十方而说颂言。Then Bodhisattva Forest of Remorse received the Buddha's awe-inspiring strength, contemplated everywhere in all directions, and chanted the following verses in praise. Okay, that's our boilerplate that we get with every new Bodhisattva. The name changes, but the event that occurs before the Bodhisattva does his chanting is the same, which is the Buddha sends out some quantity. Could it be, what is it? It's light, it's energy, it's vibration, it's the whammy, he does something with his unique Buddha image, energy, Buddha strength. And the Bodhisattva receives it and then looks around. This contemplated everywhere in all directions. He's actually looking to see who's listening, because the Dharma is very much like medicine. And if you know where people are hurting, you know what to prescribe to make them better. So it's Dharma as medicine. And these bodhisattvas are already very skillful at 对机斗教, 因兵杀药. We say they look at the potentials and speak, they dispense medicine according to the ills. They are not wasting a word. They're really good at speaking Dharma that people can understand. And then he chants the following verses in praise. Having done so, he chants. Okay, that's our boilerplate. So he says, let's look at the Chinese here. 若人得闻是, should there be, if there is someone who gets to hear this 稀有自在法, rarely encountered 法, Dharma of Ishvara, self-mastery. So we say independent self-mastery. This 自在 Ishvara, difficult to translate, hard to translate. We've been through numerous English attempts to capture this. Haven't really hit upon the one. We're working with independent self-mastery right now. Freedom, free and easy, independence, all of these comfortable, but that doesn't capture, there's none of them, there's no actual English equivalent. The Sanskrit for it was Ishvara, and Ishvara is the name of a deva who goes freely between the realms of desire and the next heaven group up, called the realm of form, which is where dhyana samadhi, chan, in Pali they call it the jhanas. That's where the jhanas begin. There are 4 levels of dhyana samadhi. And Ishvara, the God, is free to come and go. He is not bound by Mara, by the demon king, by Satan, who is up there in the heavens, interestingly enough, right? So he says, anybody who gets to hear this Dharma of self-mastery, Nang Sheng Huanqi Xin, will be happy in their mind. They will have happy minds. Ji, and will rapidly 除, get rid of, 疑惑 wang, doubt, delusion, net. If you get to hear this Dharma, you'll be happy and you'll get rid of your doubts. That's what it says. So, okay, that's a praise. That's what our Bodhisattva chose to say as he kneels here in front of the Buddha. Interesting, huh? Should there be somebody who gets to hear these special teachings on reaching self-mastery and who then feels joy in at heart, your doubts will go away. So the conditional, if one way to translate it is, if you get to hear it and if you feel joy. Another way to translate the very same words are somebody who gets to hear these dharmas of self-mastery will then be able to be happy and get rid of their net of doubts. So let's check this idea. Let's do one more verse because it ties in together. Here we go. Number 2. 一切知见人自说如是言，如来无不知，是故难思议。 The Tathagata knows them all with knowledge inconceivable. People with right knowledge and right views, who themselves can speak words such as these. Somebody who hears this Dharma, feels the joy, gets rid of their doubts, comes on the Buddha's radar. The Buddha knows that person. And the ability to do that, I can't explain, he says. It's inconceivable, but that is the case. People with right knowledge and right points of view, correct, right here is 一切知见人. Let's look at the Chinese to get, we're excuse me, tying it together with the first 4 lines. So these 8 lines are describing the Buddha's ability to know all those people, such people. Here we go. 一切知见人, all knowing, seeing people. People who have the knowledge and the perspectives, the attitudes, the opinions, the principles of the Dharma, 自说如是言, who then by themselves, of themselves, talk about the Dharma, say these words, Rulai, Tathagata, Wu Bu Zhi, none not know. The Buddha knows all those people. Shi Gu Nan Si Yi. And this phenomenon is incredible. So all people with this knowledge who talk about the Dharma, Buddha knows them all. Amazing. That's another translation, right? How amazing. Now I changed the order of the sentence to make it flow in English syntax. So the Tathagata knows them all with knowledge inconceivable. Those people who with right knowledge and right views speak the Dharma. And it's going to be Forest of Merit and Virtue Bodhisattva. Once all 10 Bodhisattvas are done with their praises, we move from chapter 20 to 21. Forest of Merit and Virtue, among the 10, gets the nod. He's the one who is tapped by the Buddha to then explain the long passage of instructions called the 10 Practices chapter. So here, Forest of Remorse is saying how amazing that anybody who gets deputized, who gets selected to be it's called the interlocutor, the one who speaks, the Buddha knows them. And it's happening in this world, and it's happening in worlds in all 10 directions. And it's just inconceivable. Nan Si Yi. Hard to imagine how this is possible. Okay. How could it be conceived of? Let me throw out a possibility. So, there we go. Where is the Dharma? So Buddhas come along every number of eons, the right number of eons of new Buddha appears. If you look at the long view of history described by the Buddha. So through different eons, different Buddhas appear, and they have different names, different lifespans. They come to different worlds. Our Buddha was 2,500 years ago. Shakyamuni was his name. He will be followed by Maitreya, the next Buddha, and so forth, into our eon, where 1,000 Buddhas will appear. Each of those Buddhas explains a different number of texts. They're not given as text. The Buddha just teaches in response to people's requests, just like we had a request before we began today. But the lore that they bring out, the knowledge they pass on, the instructions they give, are in response to the needs of the people who are there to hear, people and others, not only humans, but all the beings who get to hear the Dharma. Maitreya is going to speak and begin and finish in 3 days and 3 nights. His assembly is called the Longhua Fa Hui, the Dharma, the Dragon Flower Assembly. That has to be among the shortest of Buddha durations. Shakyamuni Buddha, they say, taught for 49 years. From the time he transitioned from being Prince Siddhartha to Buddha Shakyamuni, 49 years. Came and went, he entered nirvana. That is considered really short. Maitreya's is shorter. Buddhas occasionally teach for eons before they enter nirvana. So that's just the way it is among the lore, among the teachings of various Buddhas. That's how it's given. For comparison, we have the life and times of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth, there are 3 years where we don't know where he went. And we know he was crucified by Pontius Pilate. So these teachers, founders of religions have these stories around. Okay, so where does the Dharma come from? If you look at the 10 Commandments for comparison, if we look at the Hebrew scriptures, we have the story that Moses went to Mount Sinai, got the teachings on tablets, brought them down to the Israelites. So that is teaching by revelation. We're talking about the 10 Commandments, they were revealed, as the story goes, from God to a prophet, and he brought them down. And here was the prophecy. It was given to this event took place. Moses got the scriptures, got the tablets, and brought them down. So the Buddhist equivalent story is what? It's that this prince was determined to overcome suffering. His challenge was he saw suddenly, after believing all his young life that all things were copacetic and comfortable and smooth and fearless, and nothing died, nothing aged, nothing got sick. Within a very short period of time, he saw old age, sickness, and death, and shocked him and brought the question to his alert, keen mind: why do people die? Is there an alternative? Is there any option? Can people not die? Can they not get sick? Can they not get old? What's going on here? So he devoted his next 6 years to that project, to answering those questions. And sure enough, as our story goes, in Chinese, they say, Ye du ming xing er wu dao. At night, he saw a bright star. Maybe he saw the full moon in Pisces, who knows? He is enlightened to the way and became the Buddha. He woke up. Where did he look for that insight? Well, the difference between the first 5 years and said to be 49 days was he was looking outside. He was going from teacher to teacher, learning all the different yogas in the forest, all the different methods of practice, none of which brought him to the right place, which was his own nature. Finally, after many failures, after many inappropriate methods, he finally said, I need to look within. So he watched his mind, he meditated, he sat still and entered samadhi. And at that point, the samadhi led to the wisdom of the Buddha. Another way to describe that process is he was coming to grips with the things that were covering his mind, the delusions, the false thinking, the attachments, the desires, the afflictions. All these things are called in general ignorance, avidya, wuming, no light. And through a process of meditation, gradually the coverings of his mind got thinner and thinner and thinner, and his wisdom grew with each reduction of affliction. The light of his own nature was revealed. At that point, he was in touch with an inner source of wisdom, and that's where the sutras came from. According to the Mahayana story, he spent the next 21 days traveling to these various locations where the Avatamsaka was spoken, and explaining this text not for people, but for bodhisattvas and for devas. So that's why among the speakers of the Avatamsaka, we have bodhisattvas and devas explaining the text. So, okay, that's where the sutras came from. The point is, anybody who then reproduces the Buddha's process can also find that layer of inner wisdom where sutras abide. For comparison, what do we have? We have, what does the West offer? We have, for example, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, not a psychotherapist, who proposed that there, in the human mind, there are layers of knowledge that are universal. He described archetypes of personality traits that arise from the same place. He talked about a collective unconscious that Jung didn't have the discipline of the Buddha. He didn't have the benefit of samadhi. As far as I can tell, Jung was still using his discriminating consciousness, still in duality, but just on the flip side of that duality is where the same human mind has access to truly universal, profound principles and wisdom that the Buddha described as sutras. So interesting. Jung was not far from he was poking around the same doorway of the mind that leads to the storehouse, the treasury of wisdom found in sutras. If only Jung had had the precepts to give his mind the proper energy, which then through the methods of stillness, the methods of introspection, shamatha and vipassana, could have led to that next step. Jung was close. And it's one of those places. And interestingly, Jung then went to talk to people who had the Buddha's Dharma methods, like D.T. Suzuki and others. And disappointingly, not much came from those conversations. There were meetings between Carl Jung, in Europe, and D.T. Suzuki, who was one of the very, very, very first students of the Dharma, meditators who came to the West. Not much came of those conversations. We wish. Carl Jung also found, Taoist texts, secret of the golden lotus and such things. So he was close, and that it provides fascinating material for graduate students to this day who squeeze the moisture out of the slim resources that we have. But it was a beginning. So now the Avatamsaka gives us in Chinese the opportunity to dig directly into the texts themselves and to bring whatever resources we have to access these teachings. So the Tathagata knows anybody with inconceivable knowledge who digs into their mind and is able to bring forth sutra teachings such as these. Wouldn't it be nice if any of us listening today were able to calm and still, didn't want to do that, sorry. Calm our minds and find that purity and stillness that allows samadhi to open the door to the texts. It's a process that is completely available. What is stopping us? How do you use your Saturday evenings? How do you use your Sunday afternoons? If you're cultivating the way, then you will be one of those people at some point, known to the Buddha, because you want to take these sutras and share them. Let's see here. We're going to take a break. You've been listening to my voice for quite a while. What are we going to look at? We're going to practice our 7 Tathagatas names. Hey. Not that. This one. That one. All right. Got to make it a little bigger here. Oh, when I make it bigger, I lose. No, I don't. I got them all there. Let's see. That's the bottom. There it is. Okay. 7 Tathagatas names. This, because we're talking about praising the Buddha, right? Praise tradition, Chengzan Rulai, praise the thus come ones, we found in the process the names of 7 Buddhas. Make it bigger. There we go. All right, nice and big. 7 Buddhas whose names come to us, 7 Tathagatas from antiquity. And these names are said to be very efficacious. Because of the vows of these Buddhas, when you recite their names, good things happen. Has the power of the Buddha's cultivation you could say, instilled into the name, distilled into the name. So by saying Namo Do Bao Rulai, which is what? Tathagata many treasures. Namo Bao Sheng Rulai, Tathagata jewel victory. Miao Shai Shen Rulai, Tathagata with a marvelously formed body. Guang Bo Shen Rulai, Tathagata with an extensive body. Li Bu Wei Rulai, the Tathagata beyond all fears. And then Ganluang Rulai, the Tathagata ambrosia, and the Tathagata Amito, Tathagata Amitabha. By reciting the names of these Buddhas, one of the things that happens is each of these Buddhas' names, each of these Buddhas' vows get activated. That's one of the things that Buddhas do. So we're most familiar with Amitabha, right? Namo Amitofo. Oh my goodness, that phrase has penetrated Asian culture like none other. Even people who are not Buddhist will still acknowledge Amitofo. So each of these Buddhas, Do Bao, Bao Sheng, Miao Si Shen, Guang Bo Shen, Li Bu Wei, Gan Luang, Amito, each of these Buddhas have vows that are set in motion when we recite their names. Many of the vows have to do with connection to other realms, like animals. The commentaries that we looked at say when you recite the names, these Buddhas' names for your pets, the pets can leave their animal bodies behind when they pass on. Ghost beings. Let's not talk about ghosts. Let's talk about ancestors. Where's grandma? Where's great-grandma? Where's grandpa? Great-grandfather? If they have already passed on, by reciting the names of these Buddhas, their journey becomes enhanced. They lose their fear of the transition from one body to the next. All these good things happen when we recite the names of the Buddhas. In particular, Ganluang Rulai is a good one for moms and dads who are concerned about their kids' gaokao, right? The test that determines whether or not you get into college. Wow, that preparing for the gaokao is a real crisis for so many Asian kids, because their future is based upon this single test, if they get to take it at all. So if you recite the name Ganluang Rulai, it enhances the memory of your son, the student, your daughter, the student. So they remember the teacher's instructions, they remember the cram course materials, and they test well on the gaokao, the college entrance exam. Li Bu Wei, apart from fear, if we have eco fear, if we're afraid of climate change, that produces a depression in our deeper psyche, recite the name of Li Bu Wei, the Tathagata, free from fear, fearless Buddha. And spontaneously, those fears come to light and vanish because the light of wisdom hits that dark place called fear. So, okay, there's all kinds of benefits from these Buddha's names. And it's fun to have something that accompanies us as we walk. I find that when I walk, if I can just go, Namo Do Bao Rulai, Namo Bao Sheng Rulai, Namo Miao Shai Shen Rulai, Namo Guang Bo Shen Rulai, Namo Li Bu Wei Rulai, Namo Mito Rulai. One more. Namo Do Gao Rulai. Namo Bashan Rulai. Namo Miao Sha Shen Rulai. Namo Guangbo Shen Rulai. Namo Li Bue Rulai. Namo Ganlu Rulai. Namo Amito Rulai. How about one more time? Namo Do Gao Rulai. Namo Bao Shen Rulai. Namo Miao Sha Shen Rulai. Namo Guangbo Shen Rulai. Namo Li Bue Rulai. Namo Ganlu Rulai. Namo Amito Rulai. How about if I play it and you sing it at home yourself? Memorize it. Last one. There we go. 7 Tathagatas names. So, my goodness. I want to look at, let's save that. There we go. Put that away for now. I want to, did I not have, was I not sharing my screen for that? Sorry. I have to learn to do that more often. Okay, I want to share, we're going back to our text here. Here we go. Notice this one here. Should there be somebody who gets to hear these special teachings on reaching self-mastery and who then feels joy at heart, this person will soon cast off their net of doubts. Okay, what about this net of doubts? I think that's fascinating. Doubts, because hearing the Dharma doesn't necessarily get rid of doubts. Sometimes it can increase them. If we hear something that seems to come without proof, no evidence, no peer-reviewed articles in professional journals, nobody you know has become a Buddha. What if it's all shuck and jive? Where's the proof, right? So one of the virtues and the vices of a scientific education is the need for all facts to have, testable proof. It's a virtue because why? It is the basis of all scientific discoveries. The fact that we have a COVID vaccine that came so quickly, multiple vaccines, and is still being improved, is entirely because of the ability to require proof. So evidence-based empirical education has asked questions. Is it true? Can it be duplicated? If 3 people do the same experiment, do you get the same answer 3 times? If so, fact. How do you determine facts? That's good. It can be a vice, it's not necessarily a virtue, if it leads to a cynical state of mind. A state of mind that feeds on itself and simply doubts. So doubts are considered one of the 5 fundamental afflictions of the mind. What are the 5 afflictions? Ben, good list to know. Greed, anger, delusion, pride, and doubt. Right? Tan Shan Shi Man Yi, those are considered to be the 5 ways that people use our minds wrong. We could say 5 traps in the mind waiting to trip us up. that we've all got them. We've got greed, we've got anger. Greed unsatisfied can lead to anger. Anger can lead to stupid behavior, greed, anger, and stupidity. But there are two more. One is the ability to be proud, to be arrogant, to be full of self. That's one of the 7 basic sins, right? Sin of pride. And then doubt. So the Buddha gave these 5 fundamental afflictions. There's a whole list. There are 28 afflictions total that he talked about. But these 5 basic ones mean that everybody's got them. They're all there. Some people have a preponderance of one over the other. Some have more than, unaware. Greed can lead to anger and delusion. But having doubt as a kind of a weakness of the mind is actually helpful for the Buddha to point it out. And the thing about afflictions is they are voluntary. We let ourselves be afflicted. We let ourselves doubt. We let ourselves be proud. And yet, as the saying goes, if it weren't for afflictions, there would be no Dharma. Master Hua would often say there are 84,000, 84,000. There are 84,000 methods of practice because we have 84,000 afflictions, ways the mind is used wrong. The smoke out the tailpipe of your expensive automobile, that's a sign of affliction. You better go see the mechanic and get it tuned up, or you could damage your engine. Afflictions in the mind are just like the smoke out the tailpipe. It's a sign that we're not using our minds efficiently, effectively, naturally, wholesomely, healthily. So get them tuned up. How do you tune them up? Buddha Dharma. There is a method for purging doubt. What do doubts look like? Here's doubt. I found it. You ready? I'll show you the face of doubt. Here's the face of doubt. Who's that? 5 points to anybody who can name that? Anybody read Tolkien? This is Grima Wormtongue. He is the advisor to King Theoden in the country of Rohan. And Grima Wormtongue, the Lord of the Rings, right? J.R.R. Tolkien wrote these wonderful fantasy novels that are one of the literary heritages of our generation. What does Grima Wormtongue do with King Theoden? He does this. He whispers in his ear. Look at the poor king. This poor king is not long for the world because he's got a bad advisor. This is a zhishi. This is a non-good and wise. This is an evil advisor. He whispers in the king's ear. And the king takes his advice and goes wrong immediately. I'm told that the actor playing in, this is Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, he shaved his eyebrows for the role. That's what gives his face that, scary, plus the white and the greasy. Anyway, so what do doubts do? Doubts whisper in our ear. Doubts go, don't believe it. And we go, So, where else do we find this phenomena? Well, there is in America, there's a very strong right-wing echo chamber media network that says, we're just asking questions, right? That anti-COVID vaccine, that COVID vaccine, I wonder whether that's maybe there might be tiny, computer chips in that get into your system, and, they're going to just ruin you. You're going to control your mind. Don't put that in your body. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, right? That's a doubt. And what is a life-saving, world-saving miracle of science becomes, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't get a vaccine, right? That's what doubts do. They get in there and they just corrode truth. They take what is fundamentally sound, evidence-based wisdom and turn it into, I wonder. As a result, when it comes time to be decisive in our cultivation, we can't. We're not sure, and so we don't. And it leads to inaction, and it leads to, see you again on the wheel of samsara. Here we go again. Reborn back into the continuity of birth and death. When decisive insight, decisive action in cultivation, committing to a practice and doing it, lifts us beyond samsara to the place of the deathless, nirvana, and bodhi, and liberation from suffering. So that's why it's called an affliction, and that's how it works. Remember the face of Grima Wormtongue, who was actually a spy in the army of Sauron, the destroyer in the stories. So that's exactly how doubts work in our mind. Nobody values dust bunnies under the bed. Doubts are dust bunnies under the bed of the mind, right? Little dust particles under the bed. What do you do with them? Sweep them up, right? Vacuum them away, clean them out. They don't help, they're just there. That's how doubts arise in the mind. Now, mind you, there are people probably commenting on our YouTube broadcast right now saying, but haven't I heard that in the Chan tradition, doubts are valuable? Yes, the doubt in Chan is a result of hard work. That's different. When we say small doubts, small enlightenment, no doubts, no enlightenment, big doubt, big enlightenment, right, but that's a doubt that arises after you have transformed the senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And that's a doubt that is very helpful in our Chan practice, but it's a result of hard work. It's not just this random, floating unclarity, confusion that is the result of doubt. All right. Yesterday, those of you who were part of my Song of Enlightenment lecture series yesterday and listened to verse number, was it 35 of the Song of Enlightenment? You get to hear it again. I won't apologize because this is a Dharma worth. The more we investigate this Dharma, the better off we are. So if this will be a repeat for those few of you who might be listening today who were there yesterday too. What is it? Master Xuanjue, master from Yongjia, left behind a song called Zheng Dao Ge, Song of Awakening. 63 verses, and verse number, got to dig it out here, where are we? Verse number 32 goes like this. Da Zhang Fu Ping Hui Jian Bo Ruo Feng Xi Jin Gang Yan 非但空翠外道心，早从罗雀天魔丹。And when we add the banjo, it goes like this. Goes like this. mighty hero holds aloft his wisdom blade. From its brilliant prajna edge comes adamantine flames. The heretics, the disbelievers fall to every side. Demons of the heavens look for a place to hide. I'll get that double thumb. Here we go. Got it. Okay, what is this? This is amazing. Oh, you know what? I wasn't sharing my screen. Jerry, you got to click, tell me about it. Here it is, right here. This is it right here. For those of you who didn't see that, it's right there. Ah, the mighty hero holds aloft his wisdom blade. From its brilliant prajna edge comes adamantine flames. What is this? This is a gift to meditators. Are you a meditator? Yes, we are, Dharma Master. Good for you. This is for meditators who want to add to their toolkit. Meditators need lots of different techniques. Here is a tool for you from the Tang Dynasty monk known as Master Xunjue, Master Yongjia, the monk from Yongjia, by way of Master Xuanhua. Are you a Vipassana meditator? Yes, we are, say a certain number of folks. What do Vipassana meditators do? Among other things, Vipassana meditators create what's called the choiceless observer. What does the choiceless observer do? He or she watches thoughts rise and fall. Rise and fall. What rises in the mind will cease in the mind, says the Vipassana meditator. They are doing what is called Guan. Chan meditators are doing something different. We are doing shamatha, right there. We are doing what's called zhi, a different technique, a different tool. The wisdom sword given to us in this verse cuts doubts. Here's the connection to the Avatamsaka. Do we have a net of doubts in our mind about whether it's really true, whether the Buddha really existed, whether I should practice or not, whether the precepts really help? Whatever my net of doubts, when I use the wisdom sword, it cuts through and returns my mind to what's called the Xindi, the mind ground, to the place where wisdom grows. Master Yongjia says, Da Jiang Fu Ping Hui Jian. The mighty hero, could be you, could be me, holds aloft, raises the wisdom sword. It's got a prajna edge, and from it come diamond-like flames. This is the sword of truth, and it cuts through the net of doubts. Heretics, who are they? They are Wai Dao. Translating Wai Dao is a problem. We're calling it these days non-Buddhists. We've been through a lot of translations. It's like Zizai, it's hard to translate, Wai Dao. Followers of teachings that lead outside the mind is kind of the best long form description. We've used externalists, not really good. Heretics, that sounds really judgmental. Outside ways, we use that. That's the Chinglish translation. Wai Dao, outside way, right? That's Chinglish. Somebody proposed pagans. Pagans is not a good translation. But look at this. Any religion that proposes a deity, which is about 95% of the world's religions, should be technically included as non-Buddhist, externalists, because they go into heaven to find God, right? Or whoever she is, whoever that goddess is. Buddhists look within. So, back to our verse, the heretics and disbelievers fall to every side because What the wisdom sword does is it cuts through all the stories. And religions are based on stories. For example, the virgin birth. For example, Garden of Eden. Those are stories that came into the Hebrew scriptures, into the Torah at different times. So that's not to harp on the Torah or the Hebrew scriptures, just to say that all stories are all religions are accumulated stories. As the prophets brought their teachings bit by bit, the lore grew and grew. The wisdom sword says, look within, look inside. Okay, next, the demons of the heavens. Oh boy, 天魔, demons from the heavens. We talked about them as above at the top of the 6 desire heavens. That's where Mo Wang, Mara, in the Buddhist story lives. That's where Satan in the Hebrew scriptures lives, in the heavens. They also are vanquished when we raise the wisdom sword and look within. Okay? So, shamatha is the complement to vipassana. A skillful meditator requires both zhi and guan, shamatha and vipassana. Sometimes the mind is loggy and foggy and cloudy and uncertain. Well, what do we do then? We raise the wisdom sword and cut through it. We don't allow even a single thought of confusion to abide in our mind. Raise the wisdom sword, cut through it, and it's gone. Other times, our mind is too active, too full of thoughts, too crazy. What do we use? Vipassana. We observe. We don't choose. We watch the thoughts rise and fall. 2 different ways of approaching. The word Chan or dhyana is defined as both shamatha and vipassana. Good meditator needs them both. Master Yongjia, Master Xuanjue, our composer of the Song of Enlightenment or collector of the Song of Enlightenment, says, I want you meditators to learn the wisdom sword. We need this. Okay, what did our teacher, Master Xuanhua, say? Did Shifu talk about the wisdom sword? Oh man. Take a look. Hold on here. Did I send it away or do I still have it here? I need this one right there. Thank you. What did Shifu say? In the Shurangama mantra, Shifu gave us a verse for the line which is Bashala Shanshi. Anybody who's reciting the Shurangama mantra, you get to line 152. He says, Jin Gang Bao Jian Qi Chong Tian Shu Qiong Heng Bian Ying Da Qian Zhan Yao Chu Xie Hu Zhang Fa Jie Tuo Wu Sheng Wan Yi Nian. The energy of the Vajra jewel sword dashes against the heavens. Seen vertically or horizontally, it fills the universe. Beheading demons, banishing creeps, it protects the right Dharma. Liberation and nirvana for infinite billions of years. What is this? In the Shurangama mantra, which we recite every morning, every day, there's a line, it happens to be number 152, that's all about the Vajra sword. Master Hua, when he was commenting on the mantra, explained it. Look at this. This energy of the Vajra sword just fills heaven and earth. And it's used for defense against psychic darkness or crooked ways and leads to liberation and nirvana. Line 208, Shidinan, Shifu said, 直金刚神剑利锋入沙摩地镇摇分 降伏一切鬼魔等，改恶向善，运自心。Wielding the razor-sharp edge of the Vajra spirit's sword, we enter samadhi and quell the nasty vapors. Ghosts and demons, all subdued and tamed, turning from evil towards the good, we renew ourselves. All right, a different name for it. The name here is the Vajra jewel sword, Jinggang Baojian. The name here is the Vajra spirit sword, Jinggang Shen Jian. Line 220. 博士说和萨拉，博士说和萨拉。金刚无期相魔剑，莲花化生七宝池，释迦成道菩提树，普度寒湿处显尼。In a Vajra dance, we raise our demon-quashing sword, born from lotuses in the seven jewels pool. Shakyamuni realizes the way beneath the Bodhi tree. We take all sentient beings across, free from the treacherous mire. Again, a line from the Shurangama mantra, explained by Master Hua. He wrote a verse for it, and he calls it the demon-quashing sword, a third name for the same thing. Look at that. So, how interesting. What is going on here? What is this all about? That is to say that meditation masters from Master Yongjia, the Tang Dynasty, through to our teacher, Master Xuanhua, say there's this amazing, what do they call them? Epiphenomena. 这么一个现象, that in our meditation, should we decide we are tired of the net of doubts and we just seem to bounce around in our mind back and forth, it's just so confusing. There's this thing called a wisdom sword. Manjushri, Bodhisattva. Hold on one second. We used this yesterday. Where do we see the wisdom sword? If some people are visual and they want to see Manjushri, you want to see Manjushri's wisdom sword, take a look here. Share my screen. Hold on here. Let's find a good Manjushri sword. There's a Tibetan version. Here we are. Let's bring him up. Share my screen. Look who's here. Manjushri Bodhisattva. He's got a sword. He's riding his lion. He's got a truth sutra here. There he is. That's the wisdom sword right there. Our Bodhisattva Manjushri teaches fearlessness and how to banish doubts and demons, how to protect the right Dharma. Here's his wisdom sword. Look at that. There it is right there. So if you don't quite remember how this all works, go find an image of Manjushri Bodhisattva and discover that wisdom sword. So what is it? Is it real? Is it imagination? All I can say is, in my experience, I was sitting in a Chan session at Gold Mountain Monastery way back in 1974, and I was having all kinds of doubts in my mind about whether I should continue Asian studies, continue my study of Chinese, or go into pre-med. I thought, do something practical. And I had this doubt in my mind. Round and round and round. And it was really messing up my experience of the Chan session. We start sitting at 2:30 in the morning and go until midnight. And I don't think I had a single session, a single hour sit that was free from this gnawing doubt. And in a Dharma talk at midday, Shifu said, some of you are in here just wasting your time, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. He said, you need to lift the wisdom sword. And just if you're there to be used, and if you don't use it, it's up to you. If you use it, it's up to you. but why not use it? You like your state? You like to be so confused? How can you ever possibly get back to the mind if you're just lost in the clouds of doubts, in the nets of doubts? So I thought, why not? So I thought, what's it like? And I, in my mind, visualized swiping with a sword. And my mind went quiet, briefly, mind you. But briefly it was quiet. And it was like, that was amazing. And I kept at it. And the next time I was back and forth trying to add up all the benefits and the debits of dropping Asian studies for med school, or if I possibly could. Turns out I couldn't. I didn't have the science background. But my mind went quiet. And the next Kai-shir that Shifu taught, he said, those of you who practiced with the wisdom sword now understand how we use the Huatou. And click. Our Chan school, the Weiyang Zong, it has a favorite practice called Chan Huatou, looking into the meditation topic. And the one that is most often given is called Nian Fo Shi Shui, who is mindful of the Buddha. When you walk through Chinese Buddhist monasteries right now, guaranteed, you will see, when you get close to the Chan Hall, you'll see something posted on the pillar outside the door that says Shui, or Nian Fo Shi Shui, who is reciting the Buddha's name, who's mine. That's the Huatou method. You use the Huatou the same way you use the wisdom sword. They're essentially interchangeable. But some people they're just not who's reciting the Buddha's name, that's too confusing. Isn't that Pure Land? Is that, what's going on? Give them a sword and they go, whoosh, and those false thoughts and the doubts disappear. And they get relief. And the more you lift the wisdom sword, the better, the more efficient, the more effective it becomes. So I finished my talk yesterday explaining it was another Chan session, the next Chan session. And I was having trouble again. And I said to Shifu, I had a chance, I said, Shifu, sometimes the wisdom sword just feels so heavy, I can't seem to lift it. And Shifu said, with great energy. First, I think he was happy that somebody was listening. I don't know. Maybe he responded this way to everyone. He said, it's only heavy if you don't raise it. Pick it up. It's not heavy at all. It's light. Just swing your wisdom sword, he said. And on that energy, on that challenge, that was Shifu's exhortation, which came with real chi, right? It's like, oh, okay. So it's not heavy if you lift it up. In fact, it's light. Now, I'm not sure if Shifu meant it's light in weight or light being like radiance. Maybe the sword is just your gathered jing qi shen, your energy inside, your internal force that makes it brighter and brighter. But I know that wisdom sword grows with practice. And after a while, you just have to kind of move the shadow of it, and the mind falls quiet. What's true is always true. It's uncuttable. What goes away, what is just vanished, vanquished by the wisdom sword of the doubts, the delusions, they feel like nets, they trap us, right? Swing the wisdom sword, and if it's confusion, it goes back to rock-solid knowledge. If it's doubts or falseness, the truth remains. And the truth is often just empty space, but that's a relief from the doubts. Okay, we are done with that. I just tossed that wisdom sword out because it popped up in the Song of Enlightenment, and I thought, why not pass it on? Because it's just a phenomenon. Sherpa would talk about it, and then you wouldn't hear about it for the next 9 months, and then it would pop up again, and oh, here's the teaching. It flew by. Did you pick it up? Add it to your toolkit. Meditators need a lot of Dharma jewels. That's Manjushri's Dharma jewel. All righty, I'm going to share my screen, go out and ask the monks at the Berkeley Monastery what's going on. Is you back from Snow Mountain Monastery? Back from the Chan session?
Yep. We just got back today.
Cool. What have you got? Look online.
Okay. So in terms of the updates for Berkeley Monastery, you can see that our online daily ceremonies resume. We began again today with evening ceremony. We took a break because of the Chan session at Snow Mountain. So yeah, please join us. Same link, same Zoom channel, morning, evening ceremony, and Jingfo Shi's afternoon Amitabha recitation is ongoing. This is,
see, that's down there. There it is.
There it is, yeah. With Jingfo Shi, looking very happy.
Indeed.
Enjoying Jingfo Shi reciting the Buddha's name.
Yeah.
And he's been sharing prayers at the end of every session. So those who have deceased or those who are sick, we transfer together. And actually, by the way, Dharma Master, I got a message from Life Washer just a moment ago that there's a big wildfire, I think, near him. He's got like almost, I don't know if he has an evacuation warning, but his sky is red.
Oh.
Life Washer up at Snow Mountain.
That's in the Cascades. Okay.
Yeah, so
that's
there's a fire there.
Okay, that's
how big it is, but
something to transfer merit to. All right.
Definitely. And then if you go back up, I think you'll see River Hong Shi's Sutra lecture or Shastra lecture.
Yeah.
Song of Enlightenment, 1 to 2.
That's for Australians, for Chinese, for Taiwanese, Malaysians, Singaporeans. That's Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Haha. A reason to get up on Saturday morning.
Stephen Tainer has been teaching on mindfulness practice in Buddhism. So they'll be starting this Wednesday, September 14th.
Okay, good.
You see the Zoom link there?
Mm-hmm.
Keep going down. We have our dedication of merit, end of September 25th. So if you would like to join in, please click on the link and you can actually register to recite however many times you wish each day to dedicate merit as a community.
Okay.
Definitely important now with all the fires beginning.
Right.
Our daily meditation, we've opened Thursday and Fridays. People can come and join us for that. We're considering opening up more, so that will be something we will announce when the time comes.
Okay. Great.
And I think that's it.
All righty. Yeah, stay tuned for fires in the Cascades. That's unexpected. How hot did it get last week when you were meditating?
It was actually very cool up there at Snow Mountain Monastery. I think the hottest was something like 81.
Yeah.
So something between 50 in the morning to 81 in the evening.
So the scary thing, the scary thing about the increased heat is it saps all the moisture, and it makes trees and underbrush very vulnerable to the slightest spark. So yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the report. We will now transfer the merit with a mantra, and this mantra is particularly aimed at health. This is Medicine Buddha's mantra for anointing the crown of the head, and anybody is welcome to recite this. It's in Sanskrit, which sounds nice to Western ears, and it gives us something proactive to do in a time of COVID. I just heard today from Ben that this month, that August was the worst month in Queensland for COVID, according to hospital figures. And So it hasn't gone away at all. We need to keep our hearts vigilant. It was August, right, Ben? Was in terms of hospitals, admissions and such, and deaths. So, but transfer merit wherever you would like your merit to go, please. Make a wish and send it out. Samyak Sambuddhaya Saji Saji Samukate Swaha Bhagavate Sajya Prabharachaya Tathagatas Arahate Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Saji Saji Samukate Swaha Samyak Sambuddhaya Yata Sanji Sanji Samukate Swaha. We will bow 3 times to the Buddhas and 3 times to Master Hua. Welcome to join me. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, that's going to do it for us for today. We'll see you all next week. Amitofo. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival.